welcome back, everybody, to Two Pastors and a Mic. My name is Shannick.
And I'm Corey.
And we're so thankful that you're joining us wherever you're listening from or watching from. If you're joining us on YouTube, thank you so much, or GAN. Welcome to Two Pastors and a Mic. And I just want to say that over the last few weeks, we have got a lot of feedback. We've had a lot of listens lately through this series flow, and I'm super excited about that. And it just gives me, I don't want to say hope, but it gives me encouragement to continue to do this and just partner with you. Yeah, in this endeavor. And we're still having fun, I guess. So we're going to keep doing this. I'm
not going to speak for you. You hate this.
No, it's all good. But we would appreciate if you would like, share, subscribe. If you haven't left a review, please reach out, whether it's through Apple or just through email, Shannick or Corey at hillcity.tv.
Spell it right.
Even if it's just... Spell it right.
Yeah, like spell our emails right or we won't get it.
Yeah, spell Shannick right.
Good luck.
Yeah, I know, right? So anyway, reach out, leave a review. We really appreciate all of your encouragement. It's just helpful to us, even if it's as simple as, hey, we really enjoyed this episode. We've actually had a lot of YouTube comments lately too. Yeah. So if you're watching on YouTube,
do it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Matter of fact, YouTube, I guess, is linked to my email.
Oh,
so when someone leaves a comment, I immediately get an email, and it is a little bit of affirmation. Now, when there's a question on there, usually I just send that off to you.
Thanks.
And
I'll take care of the questions.
Yeah, you got the questions. Yeah, I'm out in the community. I'm out too much out of the office, so I'll just send that off to Corey. And hey, you got this. You love that stuff anyway. So don't sit there. Don't puff up like you're trying to be like me, and I'm going to just delegate to you.
Look at how good I am in the community all the time.
No, I do have a lot going on.
It's a good day.
Not as much I won't say we don't have equal margin. We both are really busy dudes, but you actually love diving in, answering the questions.
So do you love being out in the community.
So it works. Anyway, here's what we're going to do. No, we're not going to fight. Here's what I'd like to do. No question of the week. More of just a declaration. So if you follow myself or Corey on social media, you would have heard this. If you were at Hill City this past week, you also would have heard this announcement. But as of 4/20/2024, Corey, my co-host here, is actually Dr. Corey
It's crazy.
Rice.
Isn't it weird to think about? I actually had to go look at our episode on imposter syndrome because that's kind of how I feel now.
No, I really believe that and can understand that anyway, feeling that way. But at the same time, I also know the work that you put in. So I feel the imposter syndrome stuff you're talking about. But at the same time, the work that was involved in getting this wasn't just simple. No. It wasn't just light and easy. Like there were some hard and heavy days, a lot of time spent into it.
So much time.
Yeah. And we're talking about, in our sermon series on the podcast and at church, no hustle, all flow. But there was some hustle involved.
This wasn't
in this.
Well, the whole sermon series is understanding the difference between hustling spiritually.
I know.
And there is no hustle in the spiritual kingdom, but there is a lot of hustle if you want to accomplish stuff and do stuff. And oh my gosh, man, this was the most draining and most amount of work, but it was also the most life-giving
and most rewarding. Because this is the most proud of anything I've ever created. Genuinely. I had to teach this on video to send it in as part of the dissertation. So I actually did live classes, had 24 people go through it the first time and 22 this time. So I had 46 people go through this, and the feedback was incredible. So I am real confident in the actual work in and of itself, just because I have a ton of real life stories of people's lives beginning to change, because the whole class is about 2 millimeter shifts in your thinking towards emotional health. And I'm just so proud of it, to be honest. But it was a lot of so and you
much
should
work.
Be. And what I love about it is it wasn't just the work behind the scenes. It wasn't just, hey, let me write the curriculum, let me package all this together, let me put in the work in, putting together ebooks or all of this material for my dissertation or my doctorate. You actually also had to walk it through with people in 2 live settings.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what made it easy. And I read the email you sent me from the seminary and how
Dr. Pandel said we're going to, the board approved it and accepted it without revision. And so I thought that was really cool. It just kind of spoke to the work you have put in on it. What would you say, if I could ask you a few questions? So this will be questions of the week. What would you say would be, what was the most difficult part in the work involved in getting that doctorate?
So probably the flow, and that's not ironic, or it is ironic because that's what we're talking about. Probably the flow of the whole thing. And so like I've been working on this for several years, not knowing that it was going to become something that I would use to get my doctorate. So I've had years of research and thoughts, and then even getting, when I went to go get the doctorate approved, the theme, like I had an outline, and it changed, not dramatically, but a good amount, because I thought I had it all in the order. And even talking with you, Britt, other people on the team, I think just getting all of that stuff in order was the hardest part. And then actually when I taught the class the first time, I actually switched 2 of the classes because I didn't like the order. And I thought, I thought the order would be better if I did it a different way. So it actually was super beneficial to be able to teach it live, to do it live, because then I was really confident the second time. I was like, no, I know this stuff works, and I've already had the feedback, and it worked out well. But also like writing it, what's most crazy is, so I had, Dr. Pandel is probably one of the most brilliant minds I know, to be honest, in the field of academia. I had in one of my lessons, I think it was my second lesson, because I wrote a six-week course. In the second week, I put in some research on this guy, and he was like, you can't actually quote that. Like, he was familiar with the work, but then he directed me in the actual university study I had to quote for my dissertation, which I think that was the most impressive for me, to be like, well, not only are you familiar with it, but then you know exactly where to go for the academic research of it. So I was kind of like blown away, a little bit intimidated by Dr. Matt. He's one of those guys that you better, if you're going to speak something that you've researched, you better make sure it's the right research, because he will know it.
I want to back up here real quick. Can you tell everybody what this doctorate is in?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a doctor of ministry. So Doctorate it's a DMIN.
Okay, DMIN.
DMIN. It's specifically in counseling and coaching, and around emotional health. I actually really like what Dr. Pandel said when he posted it online about what exactly my thing does. It's he says the Zoe Leadership Development Program, my research project, is a game changer in helping leaders to identify and address their emotional blind spots. I love that, because I kind of prefaced it as in like how to lead yourself before you lead others.
Yeah.
So it's not really a leadership class. I mean, it is, but it's really just an emotional health development and become aware, because I think awareness is key to everything. Like, even if I'm in a counseling session with someone in there and a dad comes in and they're like, man, I just really don't want to be a bad dad. I'm like, well, I'm not really that worried about that, because you're aware.
Right.
You know who are the bad dads? The ones that aren't even worried about whether or not they're bad dads. They're not asking that question.
Yeah.
And so I think awareness is so key for people. I broke down each session into 3 sections, and one of them was called awareness. The second one was wholeness, and then the third one was greatness, which I did end up changing. It used to be awareness, wholeness, and joyfulness, but I changed it to greatness in the last little part. But I think it's so important for us to begin those 2 millimeter shifts. I mean, even when you think about like financial investment, you're not going to become a millionaire overnight or in a year or two. Like, long-term financial investments require a little bit of investment every single month for an entirety of its portfolio, which is hopefully 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, 30, 40.
Yeah. And so it's like, that's what this program is all about. It's giving you the tools to be able to start millimeter shifts in your life, so that in a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, you can look back and be proud of yourself for going through not just the program, but having the tools to be able to work on yourself, because emotional work never ends, and that's what's really discouraging.
It's a lifelong process.
But it's brutal, but it's really beautiful when you can begin to be proud of the version of yourself that you're now living, because you're deciding to work on yourself.
Yeah, and the longer you're in it, I'll say, because I've been through this for years now, the awareness is a lot faster.
Yep.
And I think that's the most helpful thing with people really diving in and giving it the time. Yes, it's a lot of work. Yeah, it's a lifelong process, but the more you do it, the more you work on yourself, the most beneficial thing of that continual work is that awareness comes almost immediately. Wait, that isn't right. I have the wrong thinking. Oh, that's my imposter syndrome coming in. What do I got to do to combat that? Like, so it's just helpful, like to go through things like this.
Yeah, you just hit it. And I think that's part of the key is this program isn't so that you never get triggered. That's not, I don't even think that's the point of life. It's so that those triggers don't affect you for days and weeks.
Right.
You can address it almost immediately. And what it used to affect you for days and weeks now only affects you for minutes and hours. And so that's kind of like the goal.
Yeah. So next question would be, throughout the process, what was one of the highlights that you can recall or remember? And you don't have to give details. With
I know exactly
working
what the
with
highlights
specific
is.
people or anything like that. Okay.
I mean, it is that stuff. But so I wrote a questionnaire for feedback, and I was like, I told the people after every section that did the class, I was like, I want your brutal, honest feedback because this is going to be my dissertation, and if you have something that you can offer me to help, like, let me know. And so, you get a little insecure when you ask a question like that, to be honest, putting yourself out there. And I know it's a good program because I've gone through it, and then I've taught it. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't really actually want criticism because I think it's pretty good. But the feedback I got was super beneficial because I added a lot of what people were giving me constructive criticism. But the most rewarding thing is the last question is, would you recommend this to people? And every single person, again, all 46, yes, like giving it 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 because I asked them to rank it. And I think for me, it was 2 people were like, I've been talking to my neighbor or a friend about what I'm going through, and they want to know when you're going to do it again because they're interested. And I think that's like the most rewarding for me is when people get these tools.
Right.
They're telling other people and they're telling their friends. I even had something this last Sunday. One of the daughters of one of the guys that went through was like, hey, I got to tell you about this story. We were walking the other day and someone was asking these questions to my dad and my dad was responding and I'm looking at him. I'm like, who are you? Like, I don't know who you are. And he was like, oh, these are like the tools that I learned from Corey's class. And like hearing those things, I'm like, because that's the goal. Like I loved actually what you said about me on the stage to our church is I didn't write this program so that I could become a doctor. I wrote this program because I genuinely believe that it can help people. And I want to help people. Specifically, I want you to know that you matter and that you can do great things too. So,
yeah, no, it's amazing. Last question, and then we'll move on to a little bit of what we want to talk about today in the series. But I'm going to put you on the spot. You're probably going to say, maybe I don't know. But now that you have accomplished this that you set out to do, how are you going to celebrate?
Oh, no, I do know.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's not going to be on me. I put it totally on my wife's shoulders, and that might be an unfair burden. But I've done the work in celebrating myself over the last couple of years, and like really, I asked that question in one-on-one counseling sessions: is how do you celebrate yourself? And teaching people this. I have a thing that I do that's personal, but I told my wife, I was like, I want to be celebrated by you, and I don't care how it is. I just want you to make me feel amazing. So I kind of put that in my wife's thing, and hopefully I don't know what's going to happen, but
so we will see. We will see what happens. But I do know that everyone here at Hill City absolutely loves you. They stand behind you. They affirm you in seeing the work that was accomplished. And of course, yesterday, because it was really short notice, you hearing back and then, wow, okay,
I still haven't even sat in it. Like, I'm still like, holy crap, is this real?
It was just this past weekend. And the next day, of course, we did celebrate you as a church and the work that you put in. So hopefully you feel that from us here at Hill City. But let's move on to talk a little bit about flow. We're in this series, Flow All Month, kind of based on the sermon series, and we've already referenced it, No Hustle, All Flow, that we're preaching on Sunday mornings, really spiritually, that there isn't this hustle in our life, but we just flow knowing we're empowered by the Holy Spirit, knowing that we're indwelled by the Godhead himself, and how amazing that is. And you said some things this past week, and let's just kind of talk about that for a few minutes. And you were talking about things that stop the flow, and you brought out these dams, if you will. And so really it comes down to our dam thinking and our dam perspective. And you said, let's bust some dams down. And I loved it. What I also thought you were going to do this past Sunday, which you didn't do, is use that verbiage that I just used, like damn thinking and damn perspective and damn attitude. All you said was, we're going to be damn busters.
Sorry for disappointing you.
Well, I mean, you kind of set it up like it was right there, like teed it up, like layup.
I'm so holy, I didn't even think
roll.
about it.
And I'm like, I can't believe he didn't like go there one time. And I kept thinking about that Chevy Chase movie, Vegas Vacation, I think, and he goes on the Hoover Dam, and I'm the damn tour guide, and let's go on this damn adventure and all this stuff. But it's DAM, damn. For those of you that might already be offended, we're not actually cursing right now.
Except for you did.
I don't think I did.
Get rid of your damn thinking.
No, it's damn thinking. Damn it up.
Got it. I like it.
The damn thinking.
So you're playing. Okay, I got it.
It's a play on words. Come on, that's what I did Sunday. I wouldn't have said it if it wasn't a play on words.
I know. I hear you. I'm with you.
Okay, you're with me now. So let's unpack those few things that are damn thinking so that we can flow.
Yeah. Well, it comes from John 7:38, which I unpacked this. I did this last year in Easter and brought it back again. I'm not going to unpack the Feast of Tabernacles that Jesus was teaching on the last day, all that significance. But he says in verse 38 that whoever believes in me, as Scripture has said, out of his heart will flow rivers of living water. And I think it's really important for us to understand is we believe that all of creation, all of humanity are the sons and daughters of God. Some just don't know it yet. So belief is important, but belief doesn't make it true. Belief activates what has always been true. And that verse says that living water, once you believe, will flow out of you, which means that there's living water inside of you. Remember, Jesus is in all, through all. Paul said that to pagans in Acts 17, that they're all God's offspring, right?
Yep.
And so this isn't like us just making this up. So I believe that everybody's created with that living water inside of them. And the reason for why you believe is to break the dams so that living water, as the verse says, can flow out through you to other people and impact people.
Yep.
And so there's lies that we believe about ourselves that are the dams that are built up, keeping the living water of Christ within you like a reservoir when it's supposed to be flowing like a river. And so I just said that there are three things that God doesn't want, and these three things are dams that are built in our lives.
Right. And let me back up real quick before we get to it, because I love this picture that you just painted with this idea of a reservoir in us. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why so many Christians and people that follow Jesus at some point in their journey, it gets stagnant, they get disheartened. Maybe they start looking at things that they can be against instead of following things that they should be for, mm-hmm. And promoting that. But it's because they've just looked inward or stayed inward, and it's become this reservoir, this living water that wants to get out, but they have this dam that's blocking the flow in their life. And so then it changes mentalities and perspectives. And that's why I think we have so much division within the church, so much backbiting within the church, all these things that are so like detriment to us being a healthy body, because we just keep this reservoir locked in instead of living in the flow and allowing this waters of living life fully with Jesus, like to let that flow. And so let's talk about these things that dam.
So the three dams are three things that God doesn't want. God doesn't want striving kids. Remember, there's only two types of Christians in the world: those hustling for the blessing or those flowing from the blessing. Like you can't get more blessed. You're already blessed. Awaken to it. Become aware of it. That's that awareness piece. Yeah. Because religion will teach you to strive for things that are already yours. You're already righteous. You're already holiness. You're already holy, because those are gifts given to you because of what Jesus did 2,000 years ago. So awaken to that.
Right.
Honestly, when you're striving and hustling for blessings, it puts the blessings of God dependent on your own obedience, which produces pride, instead of understanding that the blessings of God flow as a byproduct of his goodness. So you're already blessed. So any decision that you have to make, it doesn't matter which decision you make, because you're the blessing, not the decision. So that's really, really important, is God doesn't want striving kids. God doesn't want hungry kids. There's no more hunger and thirst. And we've talked about this a lot on this podcast, so I don't think I'm going to unpack it. But Matthew 5:6 is Sermon on the Mount. Jesus says, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness." So people think this is good.
Right.
Oh, we should hunger and thirst for righteousness. Well, this is pre-cross. And right after that sentence, Jesus says,
they will be filled.
They will be filled, past tense. Why? Because in John 6:35, he's speaking again, same people. And he says, "Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty." Why? Because the righteousness that
was
they've awakened to the righteousness.
Was talked on the Sermon on the Mount was not based on efforts, but based on Christ's.
Mm-hmm.
And so he doesn't want you to be hungry for him. And hunger is an orphan term, right? Only orphans are hungry. Sons and daughters aren't hungry. And then the last one is God doesn't want desperate kids. And we speak of desperation a lot within the church, and it's not an okay thing. Desperation speaks of lack. In fact, all three, striving, hunger, and desperate, all speak of lack. And you were not created with a spirit of lack. That's a poverty mentality, and this is not prosperity gospel. This is just, hey, God wants you to be prosperous, but it's going to take your effort, but not from a spiritual perspective. Make sense? So that's just
even thinking about like how even David, a huge figure in the Old Testament, he even writes under the old covenantal system, he said, "The Lord is my shepherd," Psalm 23, "I lack nothing." And he even understands that this connection with God and what that means. And I know we brought this out last week, but that's kind of how you started off your message this past Sunday, was that word. It was in Isaiah 40, kawa, K-A-W-A, something like that.
The Hebrew word.
Yeah. Those who wait on the Lord, or those who really, kawa means to be intertwined.
Yeah, woven
together.
And
I love that union that spoke to. And that's how we live in the flow, understanding that.
Yep, for sure. And so how do you break those three specific dams? Well, talking it back with you, it's not a doing, because again, we're not hustling. It's from a knowing. And these three knowings, which I'm going to give you here, is what I talked about on Sunday. These three knowings rip apart these dams so that the living water that's already in you can flow out to other people and actually impact people. And they're real simple. These are the dam busters. Is sons and daughters who know their perfect union. That goes back to that intertwining. So you are in perfect union with the Father at all times. You have to become aware of it in order for you to benefit the perfect union that you walk in. But then number two is sons and daughters who know their true identity. This is something that's given to you because of Jesus. You're righteous, you're holy. All those things that in Christian circles you think you have to strive for. No. They're given to you because they're gifts. And then the third one is sons and daughters who know their power. Because if you know that you have perfect union with the Father, you know your true identity, you will actually walk in power, the same power that raised Jesus from the dead, because you know who you are and you're not striving for the acceptance of other people, because you have the acceptance of the creator of the universe.
I love that. It's so good. So let's start busting those dams. Those
up.
Dams of striving, hungering and thirsting, and desperation.
Yeah.
Because that isn't living in the flow. Matter of fact, while you were writing, before you got to your 3 points and how you bust a dam, here's actually what I wrote down while you were preaching, and I just want to kind of cover them just real quick. So we live in the flow not by striving, but by knowing what we already possess. We live in the flow not by hungering and thirsting, but by knowing who takes care of us. We live in the flow not by being desperate, but by knowing we lack nothing. And what's crazy is I wrote that stuff down, and then you said, hey, it's not about doing, it's about just knowing. And that's exactly what I already had down, this piece of knowing. And so I think the biggest dam buster of all is for you to know whose you are and who you are. Those two things, whenever you get empowered with that, you're then able to go out and really release freedom and remove fear and empower other people to be people who also live in the flow. And so this is what we want for you. This is what I think, if we walk this out following after Jesus, I promise you our lives would look different, our families would look different, our community would be impacted and look different as we understand whose we are and who we are and the power that we possess because the Spirit lives in us.
Yeah, I love it. And we're going to close, but real quick, hey, I do want to give a big shout out to Global Grace Seminary, which is where I just graduated. I actually have a master's there and now my doctorate there. But if you are interested in education, they have a bachelor program, they have a master program, and they have a doctorate program. I would encourage you to check them out. Global Grace Seminary, they're in Houston, Texas. Everything is online and you go at your own pace. It's amazing. It's affordable, extremely affordable for an accredited school. The prices, I was told, are going up this summer, either June or July, so you might want to get on it. And if you give my name a shout out, holla at your boy, you help your brother out a little bit. So if you're interested in that, I would encourage you. For me, I think the education was life-changing. I learned a lot of new things, but a lot of what I was learning was confirmation of what we had been going in over the last decade. So I want to just encourage you, if that you are curious about taking that next step in education, specifically with Global Grace Seminary, you will not be disappointed.
Yeah, no, that's good. And so as we close this episode, just remember, be empowered, live in the flow, and know that you are loved and there's nothing you can do about it.